All right, I'm going to go ahead and call this Municipal Audit Committee meeting to order. We're noticed today, January 30th, from 11 a.m. to 12 noon here at City Hall, room 155. Let's go ahead and start with a roll call of the members. We'll start with the Assembly members.
Karen Bronga.
Felix Rivera, and then on the phone, have Member Constant.
Here.
Member Littlefield.
Here.
Member Myers.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Great, and then we'll move on to members of the administration.
Scott Lee, Office of Internal Audit.
Alden Thurn, Director, Internal Audit.
Stephanie Ryan, Controller.
Bill Falsey, Chief Administrative Officer.
Philip Bryce, Chief Fiscal Officer.
Great. Do just want to note for the record, the agenda still has Municipal Manager Rebecca Wint-Pearson as a member, but that has been changed. The Chief Administrative Officer, Bill Falsey, will be replacing Ms. Wint-Pearson as a member of this committee. So just want to note for the record, we do have a quorum. All members are present. Noting that because we will be taking a vote of committee members here shortly. All right, so we have two items on our agenda. We have the 2025 audit plan review, and we're going to talk about the audit. I have a few ideas. I also understand that there may be some additional ideas to incorporate into the audit from the administration. And then after we go through that process, we will make a formal recommendation from this committee to the full assembly to adopt the 2025 audit plan. And then second, we have the ACFR update, and thankfully we have our folks from BDO here to give that update. So let's go ahead and start with the 2025 audit plan, and I'll turn it over to our internal auditor to give us a review of the plan.
Good morning. And hopefully in front of you, you've got the 2025 draft audit plan. Just as a reminder of how this process goes, email went out in November to the Assembly as well as the administration asking for ideas for the 25 audit plan. A reminder email was sent out in December to see if there was any additional ones that might be put on there. The list was created, including everything that we received. We did not segregate or kick out anything. If we got a request from either the Assembly or the administration, it is on the list. It is a robust list and it is certainly very aggressive, but we did not exclude anything. I will say that there were a couple Assembly members who asked for something either similar or the same item, and that tends to go down to the alcohol tax compliance area, which is on the very bottom of page 1. We only obviously put those in one time to be able to encompass all of those requests. So they're not all individually listed. I will also say, this is a work in progress because we sent this back out. 2 audits were currently being worked on when we sent this out. One was the Anchorage Golf Course and one was Workers' Comp. The Anchorage Golf Course has been completed and it's going to the Assembly, I believe, probably in February. In addition to that, we, on the second page at the very top, the only carryover audit that we happen to have from the 24 group was the Equal Rights Commission management audit, including a review of administrative expenses. That one is in process. So we probably for the final review or final copy, we will take off the Anchorage Golf Course on the list because that one we're done, and we'll probably move the equal rights one into what's currently being completed because we're currently in process of working on that as we speak. So been a little bit of modifications and moving as we go through this process with the administration and the Assembly. As I stated, they're all here. Including on here are ones that are our normal sunset audits. That was 5 are on the second page. So those are in code for us to be able to do, as well as a couple of other ones, which is our normal P-card audit, which everyone loves, as well as the Police and Fire Retired Medical Trust 5-year review, which kind of is incorporated on a standard schedule of things. So it's kind of a mixture of things that were either coming up because of the date or mandated to do because of code or the requests that have come in from the various Assembly and departments. In addition to that, we have had a request from the legal department to add a couple of items after this was submitted to you under the special studies category on the second page, which are not quite as robust as a full-blown audit, but still something we would take a look at and still try to do our normal evaluation. And we would be looking to incorporate those with your support, obviously, into the final draft of this particular thing. The first one is the review of Anchorage animal care and control policies and procedures and responding to an incident that resulted in AR number 2024-379. So that would be one that they're looking for us to be able to kind of take a look at what happened, as well as how that matched up with maybe the policies and procedures that we're able to look at to be able to do. And then the other one that they would love to have us take a look at, we currently are titled it as Privileged Vendor Invoice Review. So it's similar to a contract compliance review, but it would be probably for within the legal department that we'd be looking at that. And I don't want to get into more specifics, but the legal department is here should you have any questions on those. But like I said, those were two that we've had some discussions. We did do a training opportunity with the legal department a couple of weeks ago about internal audit, and through those conversations, there was some desire to see what additional ways internal audit might be able to assist the legal department in some of the areas that they might be also looking at currently. And these were two that they asked to be discussed and hopefully supported by the assembly.
Great, thank you. So I have myself in the queue just to go over the audit plan ideas that I submitted. And then I will say I submitted as a standalone document today. And then I have Member Constant in the queue after me. Question though, before I go over these. So you said, can you describe that second audit? Can you use the phrase again?
The four words that we've settled on are
Yes.
privileged vendor invoice review.
What does that mean? Yeah, if you want to come up, please.
It's obviously a contract compliance type audit, which we do many of.
And to be clear, I just want to understand the concept. I don't need you to go into the specific detail of who.
Yeah, thank you. So we have some concerns about a municipal vendor and billing practices, and this is something that we were looking at ourselves and then learning what internal audit's capabilities were. We're like, they have the expertise, they have the resources, they would be better suited to do the review and then give it to us. And this is all in assessment of potential litigation. So
Got it.
kind of a project that we just were like, we have the experts on this. Let's see if the assembly will approve pulling them in.
Yep, I understand now. Thank you. Okay, so then, all right, let me go over my document that was, again, just sent out today. So I have a variety of audit suggestions, and in prior years, it has been the case that the audit plan has been a very robust one. And so if we wanted to make changes to the audit plan, it's always been that we've had to take out an audit to put in an audit, just because there just isn't the capacity to add more audits than what's already on the plan. So there are 3 2025 ideas, which I think are fairly important. I'll just go through them. First is a contract compliance audit of the Sullivan, Boki, and Dempsey management contracts. This has been one that's been of large interest to the body very recently, and I think it behooves us to do this audit sooner rather than later to understand from a compliance standpoint how the management entities are doing. I'll just be blunt. I didn't fully understand the scope of a lot of these audits, so if I had to pick and choose, I just had to pick and choose. I did see that there are a variety of CDBG audits, and so I was wondering if all of these needed to be done in this year, or if we could spread the wealth and maybe do one of these in a future year. So that was the suggestion that I'm making for to fit in this contract compliance audit to possibly move one of the CDBG ones. The HR, this has been an issue that's actually affected both branches of government. The policy and implementation audit of classification and reclassification process within HR. I don't want to go into the specific office, but I did talk with an office earlier this week about an issue that they had with reclassification. And then I know that Assembly leadership has had a lot of examples over the recent years of issues with classification. And so I think it would be an interesting audit to explore to take a look at the policies and how those policies are being implemented by HR. I suspected that there may be some redundancy, but I could be wrong with the homeless grant compliances audit suggestion and the alcohol tax grant compliances audit suggestion. And so I just suggested removing one of those. If I'm wrong, then we can have that discussion, but I had to put something out there. And then planning and development services. This is actually something that came out. So the Assembly got a email. We've been receiving several emails about e-plans, and we actually got a pretty good one recently from former Assembly member Kevin Cross. So I suggested doing a code compliance and what I'm calling sort of an efficiency audit of our e-plans. Are we complying with the code provisions, which there are some code provisions in, I think both Title 21 and Title 23 around e-plans. And then is that efficient? Is it being used in an efficient way, or should there be changes to our e-plan process? Knowing that I wouldn't be able to fit all of my audit plan ideas into 2025, I did put a couple of plans, ideas out there for 2026. I don't think I'll even be on the body when no, I will be. I will be on the body when the 2026 audit plan is sent to the Assembly. So these two are related to police, and that's a code compliance and again, sort of efficiency audit of 8.80.020, which is the fee for excessive police response. I've been getting some concerns from constituents about particularly businesses in Midtown who are having to call APD, particularly with regard to people experiencing homelessness and any issues that they may be having, criminal issues that they may be having. And I don't want 8.80.020 to be something that causes businesses not to call APD. So I figured an audit of how it's being currently used by APD would be a good place to start to explore that issue. And then the second one is more simple, and that's just a code compliance audit of 3.102, municipal use of surveillance technologies. Over the years, starting with AUS's unmanned aerial surveillance, I think is that acronym, drones, and then with facial technology, we've bolstered that particular provision in chapter in Title III, but we haven't done a compliance audit of it, and I figured that might be a good idea to do one. So those were my general ideas that I had. Happy to have conversations on those. Before I turn it over to see if internal audit wants to opine on the suggestions that I brought forward, I'll turn it over to Member Constant.
All right, thank you. This question for you, Eldon. Also, congratulations and welcome back. And here's the question. You mentioned the police and fire audit and a 5-year review. I was just sorting through my office files, piles and piles of records I've gotten over the years and pitching some, but we had an annual report that came from the police and fire audit or police and fire board that detailed their financials and position and everything, but I don't think I've seen one since 2021. Now, have there been annual reports from that board? Are there going to be annual reports for that board, or is this 5-year plan somehow now the replacement for those annual reports? Thank you.
Through the chairman, member Constant, I mean, I'm not too familiar with that particular, this is for the medical portion, not the retirement portion. The annual one is basically on the retirement side. Is that correct, Scott?
I believe
And have we seen, do we get copies of that?
that audit is done by the external auditors, not us.
So if I remember, and what you may be referring to is that I know when I was CFO, and I think Philippe as well, we have an external auditor who does a annual review for the purposes of the ACFR on the police and fire retirement item. And that has come, I know I got it, and I know Philippe allowed it to take place. I don't believe we've gotten it back yet from, is it not Millman? Is that the one that you're referring to? Is that annual one?
So it's hard to say. I'm not in the building. Otherwise, I'd hand it to you. What I'll do is take this question offline and I'll deliver to you the versions that I have, and we can discuss what happened if they're out there and we just haven't received them, or if we received them and I just didn't notice.
Perfect. I think that you get them to me and we'll backtrack through them. If they're the Milliman, the annual ones, they are being done. They do go to BDO on an annual basis for a portion of their act for review. And if that's the case, I'm very confident that we've been doing those on an ongoing basis.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to internal audit to see if you had any suggestions or.
Yeah, just a couple of, I mean, we will do whatever the assembly wants us to do, certainly. This is a robust schedule. I don't think we were going to get through it, so I do appreciate you trying to offer up suggestions for possible replacements as far as criticality goes. I'll kind of start with the first one you listed there, Parks and Rec. I mean, that is a relatively new contract, so we tend to want to audit ones that have been around for a little while so we can find things or have a longer period to be able to review. I don't believe it's not something we couldn't do. It's certainly within our purveyance and we can do those. I would just be cautioned about, we don't have years or, 1 or 2 years to be able to look at. So it is kind of a new one. As far as a replacement one, I don't want to pick some of these for you, but from a personal standpoint, I know a couple of these in here are follow-ups to audits that we did last year to kind of, the directors want to see, did the changes that they make actually get incorporated? Not that that's not important and valuable, but maybe those might be less urgent on the listing than something new that we have not looked at. So the very first one, for example, I know you took CDBG audits out of, but the follow-up audit on the cash control, we did the audit just on that particular one this last year, and they're just asking for us to redo it again and make sure everything they've done that they've changed has been working. I guess you could hope that everything is well, and from a time perspective, is it more beneficial to do something different and new and look into, or is it something to go over? I think there might even be a second one in there. I think it's a solid waste one as well, was a similar one, which is another cash control audit. So I'll kind of leave that to you, but to kind of mull around about what your views on that are. Like I said, we included it because those departments asked for it. As far as the HR one goes, alcohol tax, grant compliances, like I said, that came from multiple assembly people wanting to make sure that the alcohol tax has been, and we'd obviously only pick a couple of contracts to be able to take a look at there. And the homeless grant compliance came from the health department. Is it what? Oh, Assembly Sold asked for the homeless grant compliance. So you could make the case that those are similar because we used a lot of alcohol tax money for the homeless over the last couple of years. So there might be an opportunity to consolidate or not do as many. When we were talking about the alcohol tax grant compliance, we were talking probably looking at 3 different ones. And then if you added the homeless grant compliances, it might be one or two more. Maybe that would equal five, and that's a pretty hefty lift. Maybe if the thing was do only one or two, instead of the quantity we were going to be looking at, and that might free up some opportunity to add what you're looking for there. But we were going to take a small breadth of items to look at that rather than a small sampling. I'll let Scott talk a little bit about the planning and development services. He has a little bit more history with that.
Yes, our office has been conducting and assessing the planning department for their building safety, customer satisfied survey for past 5 or 6 years. And at the beginning, we used to conduct it in quarterly basis. Now we changed to biannual basis. So we do it first half and second half. And part of the survey is that assessing the customer satisfaction and their opinion of the e-plans and the effectiveness of it. So the other request, some aspect of it is already something we are doing in regular basis.
Great. Thanks. Any other comments?
Yeah, and I think on the 26th, we'll just leave those for conversation. If it's something that you guys want, then we probably should put it in 25 and get moving on it. If it can delay, then it would probably be something you want to bring back up when we open it back up in November.
Great. Well, I figured I probably wouldn't get everything that I wanted, so but we'll see. Okay, so then I'll go ahead and go through. I appreciate all of those responses. So I guess a question for Mr. Lee on the e-plan. So do you seek management comments based off of the survey responses?
Chair Rivera, the response we are asking the subject of the question is strictly those customers who use the building safety and their e-plans for that particular the half of the year, and it does not include the input from the management.
So I think why I'm asking is rather than create an additional audit, I'm wondering if that step could be added to the next survey that's done, is asking for management comments. Is that something that you think you could do?
Chair Rivera, I believe that can be easily done. One thing I just came to my mind is that maybe because the question will be asked the same management staff over and over, the response you probably will be seeing will be same one after.
Sure. Thanks. All right. Then if we can do that, then I will forego the e-plan audit unless someone else here feels very passionate about it. Then I think moving to the first audit, the contract compliance audit. So I do feel like that's enough of a priority for the body that we should probably put that audit on the plan. I do think your idea of replacing one of the follow-up audits is probably a wise one, your suggestion, I should say. So what I will suggest is that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay everything out so that maybe we can just make one motion to amend the plan instead of having to do a bunch of little motions. Is I will suggest that we replace the follow-up audit of clinics cash in under Anchorage Health Department and put in, would this be, I guess, question to Mr. Falsey, would this be under Parks and Rec that you would want this placed? Because I know your office is dealing with this also.
You're referring to the first one on your list here?
Yes. Yep.
Well, Parks and Recreation is actually not overseeing Sullivan, Boki, and Dempsey. That is
Okay.
venues, which is now part of the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer.
Okay. Got it. Thank you for that clarification. So then we would, and I don't think you have an audit under here, so we would create a new section, Chief Administrative Officer, and then add this audit. Does that sound good to internal audit?
We will do what you want, but I understand what you're asking for. That's what's most important. You want to remove
Perfect.
the one and add the other.
Yes. And then on the classification issue, I suppose without having a deeper understanding of the homeless grant compliances and alcohol tax grant compliances and what the differentiation is between the two, perhaps, yeah, I don't really understand those well enough to understand what's the difference. So perhaps I will just not move forward with the classification audit idea unless someone feels like it's a particularly passionate about it.
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead, Member Constant.
sorry, sorry to interrupt, but I tuned out for a second, and I think the HR audit classification process is really valuable. If there's an alternative way to get there, it's fine, but I think we need a report on what's working and what's not working.
I would agree, which is why I had it on the list. Okay, so then hearing that, so I guess one of two alternatives, and I'd like to hear internal audit's suggestion. We could erase the homeless grant compliances audit and just stick to the alcohol tax grant compliances with maybe a heavier focus on the homelessness grants within the alcohol tax. Or we could remove the second follow-up audit, which would be your preference. And then, yes. Sure, I'll go to you first, Member Falsey.
I might pick up on the member Constant's suggestion that there might be an alternative way to do this. We are also aware that classification causes a lot of delays every time that you're trying to change a position or recruit for a new position. We have talked internally about doing a set piece that says, here is what classification is, here's what it entails, here's why it's taking the length of time that it is taking, and here's some suggestions for improvements. My recommendation would be to let us do it that way, in part because I'm not sure what the audit would be, meaning to the extent that audits are typically, here's a set of rules, have you complied with those rules? I'm not entirely sure how internal audit would score the classification process if it's just taken too long. So I think there's maybe a way that we skin this cat where you don't have to replace some of the audits you were otherwise interested in that feel a little bit more auditable to me, and we can bring you a classification story in another manner.
Sure. Yeah, I think the goal is to get the product done, and if you're saying there's another way to do it, I think that's fair. I forgot to opine on this when I was going through this. I think the whole rationale there are some audits on here that I perhaps wouldn't have put on as ideas in the past, but going off of what Director Thurn has talked about, which is really wanting to maybe look at the scope of the office and look at how we can, that's why I use the term sort of efficiency audit of how we can maybe make our processes more efficient, is why I put some different kinds of audits than maybe I would have proposed in the past. But if there's an alternative that doesn't require adding more stress onto internal audits plan, then I'm fine going with that. Does that work for you, Member Constant?
I'm agnostic about the exact method.
Okay, then it sounds like to me there are two amendments to make, and I'll just state them and then ask for a motion from one of the members. So there is an amendment to add the two audits requested by our legal department as described by the internal audit director. And then there's a motion to add a contract compliance audit of the Sullivan, Boki, and Dempsey management contracts and remove the follow-up audit of the clinic's cash control under health department. So those are the two amendments that I see. Are there any other amendments that folks would like to
yeah.
roll into that?
Oh.
Go ahead, Member Constant.
I was just going to make your motion for you. Move to amend.
Okay. Is there a second from the membership?
I will
Second.
second.
Okay, great. Thank you. So seconded by Mr. Falsey. Let's go ahead and do a roll call vote on this, please. So if we can have one of those, Mr. Freena.
I can't read, sorry. Stephanie. Controller. I think.
It's everyone on the list.
This is just for the audit update. I'm sorry.
This is, so we're voting. For the record, we're voting on the amendment. So the amendment has the two
Didn't know
parts that I
voted.
described.
Oh, okay. I didn't know I was part of that. Okay, yeah, I'm fine.
Yes, I'm fine with it. Mr. Falsey.
Yes.
Member Littlefield.
Yes.
Member Constant.
Member Constant, how do you vote on the amendment?
Yes.
Chair Rivera.
Yes. Great. So it sounds like that amendment passes unanimously. And then don't go too far because I'm going to ask for another roll call vote here in a minute. So then can I get a motion to recommend approval of the amended 2025 audit plan to the full assembly?
I moved to recommend the amended audit plan for approval by the entire assembly.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Great, thank you. I think that was Mr. Littlefield. And then let's go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Ms. Ryan.
Now I'm on. Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Bryce. Yes, I do. Mr. Falsey.
Yes.
Member Littlefield.
Yes.
Member Constant.
Yes.
Chair Rivera.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay, great. So just to confirm with internal audit, will that be on our February 11th agenda?
That's a plan. We'll go and revise the document. We'll take those couple of things off. We'll move them around and we're gonna get this into on base as quickly as we can.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I really appreciate that work and looking forward to seeing the results. As always, a very ambitious plan. All right, so then second item on our agenda is the ACFR update. I will invite our folks from BDO to come up here for the update. Welcome.
Good morning, I'm Kelly Mays.
Great. If you can just give us, members of the committee get the weekly reports that you put out, and very thankful for those. Those are very informative. Can you just give us a brief update of how things are going? Focus on the ACFR would be great, but also just a more general perspective.
Good morning. So as we presented our audit plan back in October, we primarily started on the standalone engagements, which covers Anchorage Water and Wastewater, Solid Waste Services, the Port of Alaska, Civic Ventures, and then of course your main ACFR file. As we started moving through those programs, we primarily start focusing on the standalone engagements first. We have completed the majority of the test work for AWO today. It should be wrapped up today. We have completed the majority of the test work as it pertains to municipal-wide cash and investments, pensions, those things actually impact all of your standalones. So we put a primary focus on those in the very beginning. We have substantially completed all of our work with them. We are working with the controller division as far as it pertains to some of those areas and getting those completed. We have started test work in solid waste services this week. We have also started the draft report, which we also are as part of your non-attest services under the contract. We plan on starting the port draft and the port test work over the next couple of weeks as we obtain those final trial balances for the port. In the same process, we have several different teams that are working on all of these engagements simultaneously. And we do have a team that's been primarily focused on the heavier, more time-intensive sections of your ACFR, which includes debt, cash and investments. A primary focus recently has been capital assets and leases, which are also, very voluminous in those amounts. As we work through those areas, some of the things that we are looking at getting that also take quite a bit of time is your grant schedule. And grant test work is quite intensive for the volume of grants that you have, but also because of the nuances that come along with compliance in your grants. And as we work through into March and April, I know that Stephanie and her team has been working diligently on that grant schedule and working on those reconciliations. And that's going to be one of our primary focuses as soon as we obtain that information from the controller division. And then that, of course, is going to lead into the remainder of your financial statement audits. Because of the delay that we've had on the grant schedule, of course, that's impacted your federal and your state single audits. And those are one of the things that we're going to focus on after we go through all of the financial statement audits.
Great, thank you. I guess question I have, so the last update that we received still had a planning for issuance of the ACFR by April. Is there anything, so you did talk about grant schedules, is there anything that you think would hold that up?
So right now, as far as it pertains to issuance, will be timing of the grant schedule. If there's any revisions that are going to be required of that grant schedule, and also timing of your trial balances, that has a heavy impact on all of our test work. And right now we are working with the controller division on obtaining those final trial balances, which we currently do not have. So as we get those things, we'll be able to provide a better timeline of what issuance would look like. But at this point, it's going to be a timing on when we obtain those critical pieces.
Great, thanks. I'm just looking. Okay. Any other questions for BDO? Sounds like things are moving forward. All right, great. Thank you for that update. Just for, as an FYI, probably, I guess I'll ask you, when would you recommend the Assembly get another update on the ACFR in this committee, just so that we can be apprised if there's any big changes coming up?
We can provide an update anytime you would like. If you prefer once a month, we would be happy to do that. If you would prefer on an as-needed basis, that would be acceptable as well. Sure.
Yeah, we get the written reports, which are helpful, but sometimes it's also helpful to just have a conversation in person. I don't want to gum up the works, because I know you all are very busy leading up to the issuance of the ACFR, but perhaps maybe in February, late February, early March, maybe get another update and hope that everything is in place to issue by April. Great. All right. Which would be amazingly earlier than the last issuance. All right. Any questions on BDO, ACFR? Not hearing anything from folks on phone, then I think that's it for today. I will go ahead and ask if there is any audience participation in person. Anyone on the phone? No? Okay. Then we will adjourn. Thanks, everyone.